Hey guys, this is the stories, information, and the beginning planning stages of an expedition to get to the bottom of what's going on here. Deep in the backwoods near Moon Lake, by where we're going to be having our gathering on August 23rd and 24th, 2024. This year is going to be epic, so this is one year you do not want to miss. This is something ancient, and I mean ancient as in ancient Romans, ancient Egyptians, ancient Aztecs, I'm not sure. But if you like these kind of stories, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe and share it with your friends, and make sure you leave a comment. And if you like Mike's story about the bear cub, definitely make a comment about that. So I'm with Mark Butler and Mike Lockwood, and Mark told me a story a long time ago about something he found, and I want you to tell that story because I want Mike to hear it, because it deals with the area that Mike's in. So I want him to hear about that. So with that said, Mark, tell me about about the bear. Tell me about that.
Okay, so my brother found a lake in the Uintas that it got restocked with fish every 5 years, and it was deep enough that it didn't freeze. So we thought we'd find that. So we went up this drainage and above Moon Lake, and we were counting the creeks and that as we went by, and we somehow we got mixed up and counted some little creek or whatever as a bigger stream, and so we got to what looked like where we thought creek went out. But anyway, we found a deer trail that went down the face there. We went down there, and there was a big thunderbird carved into the cliff. We hiked clear up there, and we just found there wasn't any lake. It just petered out in a little swampy area. So we went back and looked at things, and we figured out that we turned too soon. So we went back, and there's the lake that we were trying to get to. It's a little bit hard to get to this. The book said it was one of the most inaccessible lakes in the high Uintas. You can either walk up, follow the creek and go up there, or you have to hike through a bunch of deadfall. There's a big basin with deadfall in it. And we really liked this area and had a lot of success there, so we went back several years. Well, the one time we were coming back out, and it started to rain, and it was pouring. And we were trying to go through the deadfall and slipping and falling, so we thought we'd get over closer to the edge of the deadfall and follow where the mountainside comes down and meets the bottom of this basin. And so we were following this around, and there was a big flash of lightning, and it looked like there was this big bear standing there, and I think it had one arm raised, but it scared us to death, and my brother said he almost wet himself. But so we were standing perfectly still, and it lightened again, and the bear was right there, and we waited and we watched, and it didn't move. And so we went closer, and I thought, well, maybe it's a carved wooden bear. Somebody carved a wooden bear, but it was made out of stone. It was a dark stone.
So it was carved.
It was carved.
It was life-size, lifelike.
It was taller than me, so probably 7-8 feet tall.
So and this wasn't one of them like you see animals and shapes in the clouds, or this wasn't a shape in the rock. This was carved.
It was very well done. I mean, so the hair would kind of come out, like a triangle piece with lines down it, so somebody had some detail.
They carved the hair in it too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was kind of, even when we went through the deadfall, it was kind of out of the way when we normally go. It was back over closer to the edge of the
cliffs.
The cliffs, yeah.
And you said it had one arm raised?
At least one arm raised. I can't remember. It might have had both, but I think it might have just had one arm raised.
So was their hair carved just in spots, or
No,
the whole
bear.
the whole bear
It
head?
was like, instead of just a bunch of lines, it was like they did like kind of triangle pieces with maybe 3 lines in each, kind of like wet matted hair, kind of.
So they actually spent a lot of time carving.
Somebody put a lot of time in.
How
it.
much time you'd have thought that it would have taken to carve that?
I don't know. It had,
A week?
I mean,
A month?
it was maybe it was several people that worked on it, but I mean, it wasn't just something that one person did by himself. Probably.
Let's say that you're an expert stone carver and you're building this. How long do you think it would take you?
I'd say weeks or a month.
A month?
Yeah.
So to have the arm's kind of away, so it had to have been a bigger rock that they carved down in order to have the arm, I guess, because a lot of times rocks, unless the rock has like a jag sticking off it or something that they can. So
Did it have claws on it and everything?
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
It was.
The eyes was cut detailed, the nose, the mouth, teeth.
The mouth was open.
Did it
You
show
see the teeth. I can't remember if the eyes were just kind of cut back in, like a hole where the pupil would be, or I don't think it had anything inlaid in it for. But it was pretty impressive.
Wow.
It was impressive enough it scared us. We both thought it was real, and we watched it for quite a while until we decided it was not moving and went closer to see what was going on.
So I've been to places with explorers and different guys that say, "Oh, I know where there's a bear, carved in a tree or in a rock or something." And I've went with them to these locations, and it's a rock sticking up, and it doesn't have the intricacy of like what you're talking about with the hair or the claws or things like that. And they say, "Now, doesn't that look like a bear?" And I look at it, and I'm kind of like your cloud thing, Terry.
Seeing
And I'm like,
faces and animals in clouds.
yeah, you say that's a bear? Looking at, I mean, because you'll go to places where they carved turtle heads in rock.
Yeah.
And I know where there's a couple of those, and it does. It looks like a carved turtle head in a rock. Now, I've seen rocks down in southern Utah and Arizona that look like a bird, or they look like a frog, or they look like a bear, or they look like something, because it does. It kind of resembles that look.
But it's natural.
But it's natural. It's a natural thing. Now, kind of what you're describing isn't natural. Because if it's got hair carved in it and claws, that was actually, you can see the chisel marks and the carving of
It was
it.
like a craftsman did it.
But an intricacy thing like that, why, that's something altogether different than just looking at something that, hey, that looks like a bear. Or that looks like a bird. I had a guy took me to a place and he swore it was a snake's head. And the Spanish used these symbols out of the Bible, a lot of them, the crosses and things that they use. So if it's, and the Spanish did, they didn't really carve much in the trees, maybe trail markers or something, but they usually carved in things that would last the age, right? Something that would be there later in an expedition. When they came back, it would still be there. It wouldn't burn in a fire or blow over in a wind or not be there when they went back. So that's real interesting. Now, I was friends with a guy that was a pilot, and he flew for the government and did a lot of projects for different companies, surveying and different things like that. Well, the government hired him to take shots over the south slope of the Uintas. Well, I'm not going to mention his name because, well, he's gone now, but I don't want to get his family or anybody in trouble, because he gave me maps and markings on maps and asked me to kind of keep that to myself. But he's gone, and a lot of the family's gone and stuff now, so I'm now a little more willing to divulge some of the information that he gave me. Right up there by where you're talking about, he drew on my map, and it says old rock structure. And I asked him, I says, "What do you mean, old rock structure?" He says, "Well," he says, "I wasn't supposed to, but I turned the machines off in the plane. I flew back around to get a better look at it." And he flew right by it and said there was columns carved in the rock, not stacked or built, but carved in the rock. And if you say this bear arm is pointing, okay, so I'll show you my map. we'll get on Google Earth and I'll show you my map and show you where that rock structure is on my map. And according to where your bear is and that shaft with that chicken ladder stuff, and maybe these things kind of interconnect together.
So I just want to say, man, 100% I think so, because if somebody took the time to carve columns, chisel out columns and make that's the same people that carve a bear.
Yeah, I've never seen the Spanish carve anything like this much detail.
And I really haven't either.
Sunstones and the stuff like that, and some of the different things, but I've never seen.
I mean, because if
anything this big and this intricate.
So another interesting thing you told me, Mark, is
and it looked like it was a hard
rock.
Rock. It wasn't sandstone or something soft. It was
something that would be tough to carve in.
Yes.
So, and what gets me is you described pyramids, and then the hair was in the pyramids, and there was sections of that hair going down. So, if I was going to carve hair into a bear, I would just make a bunch of little hair carvings all the way down.
Lines,
I wouldn't actually do a pyramid, because something like that, now you start talking ancient Egyptian or older, right? Because they matches some of the carvings that they did, like on the Great Pyramids. There's actual pyramid carvings on it, and then inside the pyramid is carved something. And in your case, it's hair, like matted hair.
Yeah, so the hair would kind of, triangulate. Some of it had a little curve at the end of the clump, and it had 3 or 4 lines in each.
Huh. Interesting.
Stuck it out and gave it 3 dimensions and made it look like matted hair.
So, and I know that country pretty well.
So before are you going to go on farther with your story before you?
No, go ahead.
Because you said something about ancient Egyptian or Aztec or something like that. Tell them about that other thing you found, Mark, about the altar. Tell me about that.
Oh, so when we go hiking, we've been up there so much, we just look at the map and say, oh, there's supposed to be a lake over here in this next drainage, and we'll just go right over the and up there at the top of the saddle where there wasn't any
trees.
There were no trees or anything. I don't think we were above the timber line, but it was rocky. There was nothing growing there, and there was an altar built there.
What did it look like?
It was just coarse stones, but somebody had taken the time and put 2 big stones down in the ground, buried, and then a table on top of it, and then stacked up some smaller stones around it.
Like chairs around it?
There were some big stones out a little ways like a chair, but kind of at the base of the altar they'd stacked some stones. It may have been filled at one time so that it was solid with the small stones between the 2 big ones on the table.
Okay.
The table itself was probably about maybe 6 by 3 by 4, something like that.
So the tabletop was pretty heavy then. It took
a few
people to move that on top
thick.
of it.
Yeah.
So you're talking a couple tons, a ton or so, huh?
Yeah. And we talked about it, and we thought it looked like an altar and where it was at, and anciently they used the tops of the mountains for altars and things. We wondered if that wasn't what that was. So that's in the area.
That's real interesting, because when I was coming out of there a few years ago, I looked over on that side hill there, and what looked like to me a ziggurat, an old looking, and because you could see it on the skyline, you could see where it had a flat plateau on it and it came down on the sides, just like what you would see in Peru or Brazil or somewhere in those jungles where they built them ziggurats. And with an altar being in the position of where you're stating, where you've seen that needs to be looked at over there too, because that's significant. But how ancient? The pilot was telling me what he's seen looked like something that might have been pre-Diluvian, that old, that it might have been pre-flood stuff that he was looking at, not older than Egyptian looking, because I've seen these columns built like in Samaria and Mesopotamia, down in Afghanistan and on the border of Syria and stuff, and you look in some of those ledges and there's carvings like that, and they actually have some of those old style looking buildings there too from the ancients. So they obviously travel all over the place. But up there where we're talking about, that's rough, rugged, really a lot of it inaccessible for a lot of people.
Yeah.
To actually even get there. It'd be like if we went up there, of course we're going to take horses. You know, we'll ride up there to these places and then set camp or something if we're able to all of us get together and do that, and then go look at some of these things and try to put it together, see if they. I think right there and all there it all fits.
So I interrupted you, Mike. You was telling about the pilot. He shut off his things and then.
Yeah, so he turns the plane back around and he flies so that he's on the left-hand side of the plane flying. So he flies back down the canyon so he can look right directly down at this stone structure. So he tells me when he turns the plane around and he gets a good look at it, but that's not enough for him. So he turns back around, he goes back around, he makes another pass by it and gets down pretty low in the canyon. And gets almost perpendicular from this thing's about 1,200 feet out of the bottom of east side of the drainage. Northeast side of that drainage is where this old rock structure he's telling me about. And he describes it as columns carved right in the ledge like you'd see in Afghanistan, in places where they carved, and which is softer rock there, but they would carve them like a facade. Just the front side of the column is what he described to me. It wasn't actually built. It was carved in the rock. And then in between these columns, of course, they were connected on top. He couldn't quite describe what that looked like. He says some type of a design between the columns, like it was setting on top of the columns. But underneath was a square opening. In between these columns, there's an actual entrance, square entrance going in there that he says is not caved. He doesn't know if he couldn't see inside, of course, but he could see that square carving out of the rock next to them columns. Now this is up in the ledges, up in the talus slope, and big rocky slopes that the glacial movements made. Up above that, up in the ledges up there. I mean, really tough and to get to.
Huh.
So that bear you're talking about is almost right straight across from that. And the arm pointing, I think, is pointing at that rock building. I haven't been to it. Me and Terry, we rented a Cessna a while back, and we went up there to camera and filmed it to see if we could look on the film and actually see that structure on film. So we're just trying to get together so that we can go there and know that this thing is there. That it's a heck of an expedition to put together to go up in there and check these things out. So we want more proof, more verifiable proof that this is what the pilot saw. So I've been to a few locations on this map that he's given me, and what he says is there. When I've been there, that's what's there. He says old cabin, 2 shafts. Go there to where he's got it marked on the map. There's an old cabin there, and there's 2 shafts.
There was we found remains of an old cabin up on Odison Base.
Okay.
And it looked like it had it was built on flat like slate, and it had some walls that went part way up, and then it looked like it had a wall tent that went up to the top, and some of the timbers had fallen down that probably supported the roof. But I always thought that was probably later when the canvas and the cabin lake, we were hoping to see that too, but evidently the Forest Service destroyed that before we got in there.
Okay, so me and my brother built a cabin up there.
That's the reason we went over there, actually.
He found your cabin?
He found my cabin. So we did, because me and my brother cleared trails for the Forest Service, and we were up in East Basin and Ottoman up there, and we built a little cabin, and we only got the walls. We never got a roof on it, or never got the doors and windows. So was there doors and windows in it?
Well, there was just some of the frame, and the frame had kind of fallen down.
So we didn't get to building the doors and the windows in it, but we did take canvas, and we put canvas up to finish the top out when we worked for the Forest Service. And that was, so I don't know, that was I was 20 21 years old, so that would have been, and I graduated in 76. I'm giving my age away. So 76, 77, about 78, 79-ish. Did the cabin look like it was about that modern? About in the late 70s?
Could have been, yeah.
You might have found me in
50s and 70s, and I figured that
that's funny.
it may have been somebody's old deer camp or something.
Because me and my brother went back up there looking for it a few years ago and couldn't find it.
It was still
We'll have to show you where we have to have you take us show us where our cabin is.
So that
funny.
just goes to show you that.
2010, somewhere around there. It was still there.
So Mike, that just goes to show you, you know, that people say, how can you find it and know where it's at and then lose it? Well, man, you built this thing, and you can't find it.
Yeah, we rode around up there for a day and a half, up in and on horses, and we couldn't find it.
It's actually easy to lose things, and I mean, I've been with friends. We've shot a deer. We had to get back to the hot plant to get it started up and that. We were in Joe's Valley, so we hung it from a tree and we looked at this and that and got triangulated and this and that. Came back and couldn't find it. Couldn't find his deer. But.
I had that problem with a shaft. I took a couple of buddies of mine up there from Mountain Home, walked in there with them, and I'm a horse guy. I don't like walking. And I had 45 pounds on back, and I went back with him up in by Clements, over to Aspen there, where I knew where the shaft was. Couldn't find it. And there was 4 of us, him and his 2 brothers and me, and we walked around, and I mean, we lathered that area almost in a grid pattern. And when I got there, so I marked the trail with a horseshoe. There was an old horseshoe there, and then there was marks in the trees. Were obviously a little bit more modern because the bark was only grown over the mark in the tree, a circle about that big around, and then the bark was maybe an inch thick, so it wasn't that old, and it wasn't in that big of a pine tree, maybe an 18, 20-inch pine tree, not a big 2 or 3 footer. But so one mark, but the wind had come through there and blown trees down, some bad wind come through. Even the burnt trees were still standing from the Axis fire. But the burnt trees were standing more than the ones that were blown over were live trees. They just snapped them off about 3-4 foot up, just snapped them off. And so my other marks were, I looked underneath the trees to try to find the other marks. Found the horseshoe, where I left the horseshoe to mark my direction over to the shaft. And it's gone. Couldn't find it. Couldn't find the shaft. I don't know, just like it's magically disappeared. Like it never even was ever there. All I could find was a little sump, maybe, I don't know, maybe that deep and about from here to that chair in the ground, just a really light sump. But it wasn't kind of where I remembered it being. But like you say, you try to keep these marks in your mind, and why it's not as easy as what people think, and thank God for GPS now.
And the longer it takes you to get back to the area, the more things change.
Well, and everything starts to looking the same.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
your foot grows, the trees around grow a couple of feet while you're gone, and you come back and everything looks different.
Yeah, well, like some of the elk hunting country I hunt, you know, the clear cut areas that I used to hunt in, those trees are 30 foot tall now in there in 15, 20 years. They're that big around, honestly. I mean, in 30 years, they've gotten that big around and 30 foot tall. You wouldn't even know that was a clear-cut area. Completely grown in.
So, Mike, is that the same guy, the pilot? Is he the same guy that fell to his death looking?
No, that was one of our old wooden buddies, and that was back behind Chipeta Lake. Now, he was looking for that. He's Carrie Lee Boren's cousin. So both of them, their great-great-grandpa was Isaac Morley. Isaac Morley was the first guy coming across on the cart path that Walkera says, hey, that's the guy in my vision. Remember the story?
Yeah.
So he went down to the where the Mormons were pulling the carts across there, the big hats, yep. Called them the big hats, and took Isaac Morley and showed him these places where the gold is. Well, now, Kerry Boren supposedly has his diaries and his writings and stuff, and I don't know him. But when I went to a funeral, now Joe said Kerry wouldn't share none of his great-great-grandpa, maybe his information, and share it. So Joe has his wife drop him off, and she'll come back and pick him up in 4 or 5 days. He's 82 years old, or 84, up there. And he's at 12,000 feet rappelling, where they found his camp. But where he fell from, he 500 feet to his death. Now, I talked to the sheriff. Travis says that the rope, it was just mysterious. They think maybe he stepped on a rock and fell to his death. And the rock gave out. But Joe's not a type of a guy that would do that without the rope attached to him. He wouldn't just go climbing around on that ledge and be unsafe like that. But so the rope wasn't cut, and there were no knots in the rope. And they actually had to call a search and rescue out of Colorado because Utah Search and Rescue didn't have the equipment or the experience to get him out of there, to get his body out of there. But he had sworn that he was he's real close to finding this lost city, the Karashanab, I guess. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
But this Karashanab, that he had actually found this. So I seen some pictures of an altar kind of like what you're talking about in these ledges. So he was up there in September, the end of September. And I remember me and Roger saying, hey Joe, if you're getting close, people usually die mysteriously when you get close to this stuff. And I've heard of this happening to a few people. Is it true, or are they just not careful and something happens accidentally? I don't know. But they die mysterious, but they end up dying. And that's what happened to Joe. And he told us right there at the mill that he was close, that he was within an acre of finding that. But the problem was that previous year, he's been gone about 3 years now, and we had a bad winter that winter. So on that side of the cliffs, from where the snow blows it over and builds that drift up, that cornice up there, he wasn't able to get off of that snow. He'd been up there 2 or 3 times earlier in August and the first part of September and couldn't. There was still too much snow, and he wanted to wait till it melted. Now you're getting the end of September. You're up there now, you can get some snowstorms again.
Yep.
But he couldn't get over that edge because of that snow. So he was going up, and we seen him about the 10th of September, and he said he was going to go up in about another week, and he thought that snow would be melted up where he could rappel off there and get into that. But I've seen pictures of an altar like what you're talking about and a mine entrance in them ledges.
He showed you pictures?
Yeah, I seen pictures from from a member of his family off of his phone. But so the ledges came out and would come back like this, and then go out and then come back. And he, from the picture I seen, it looked like he was between those two spots, like where the ledges went out and came back. Because otherwise you would see the hole from a helicopter or from across the canyon binocular, and you'd see it. But from the way that hole was going in there, you wouldn't see it from anywhere. Now, was it the actual Karashanab that he's seen? I don't know, and Joe's not around to tell us.
So just an FYI, I ran into a guy who his wife's family was Morley, and they have Morley's journal. Just an FYI to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I've got these maps here I'd like to show you. I'd like to pull one out on the area what you're talking and show you where this rock structure is, and then kind of have you look on there and kind of, if you might have an idea of where on this it actually, where you think that bear might have been. So let me see if I can find the one we need here. Now this map's not real detailed, and I brought the computer so we could look on Google Earth, but somewhere up in here must be where that creek is, where you're talking about taking a shortcut up here. Now if that bear's up in here, and it might be pointing right here where he's got this rock structure marked right here. That's where that rock building's supposed to be.
Actually, where's that?
That's right on the other side of that rock. See, look how close that rock structure is to it.
So, I would bet the deadfall's in here.
Oh my words. You're on the same side even.
So there's a Thunderbird too carved in. Either here or here. I can't These aren't named. I don't see a name on this. Like I said, we followed it up, and it just kind of ended in a little bit of marshy land. But there's a Thunderbird carved right on the cliff, and you can't get to it. It's all steep right there. But we found a little deer path that you could miss real easy, and it kind of wound back and forth, and actually went down to the bottom here. There's an old path. The Forest Service changed the path. And if you go down lower, there's a lot better camping places.
Right.
And some of those old trees have got markings on them still.
So you was telling me, I hate to interrupt you, but I want to get this. So, Mark, you was telling me that you found, when you was younger with your dad up to one of these lakes, you found an old pine tree, big pine tree that had a name and a date on it?
Up by Kidney Lake, going into Kidney Lake, and this probably would have been 77, 78. There was and it was an old name, and it was actually higher on the tree, like, you'd expect the tree had grown. And it was really thick, but you could see it said, it was abbreviation for Antonio, with the A-N-T, and then I think it just had the Inye with the line across it, and then an O. And then it said Ruby Doe, and it had a 1700 something date. And we pointed it out to my dad, and my dad said, "Oh, somebody just faked that. There's no way that could be right, because the pioneers didn't even get in here until 1840s or whatever."
Yeah.
So I remember that we saw that.
Okay, so there's markings right here. Now, I don't know if the fire got to this or not, but see, he put right here. There's some stuff right here by this. But so this is really interesting. So, Moon Lake here. Moon Lake's about right in here. Okay, this trail, the Forest Service hasn't cleared this trail yet. So we want to take the horses up, and we want to take the chainsaw and stuff and clear this trail up to here by where you said you're seeing that stone barrel. Okay, and that's where you guys were headed to on this side with that bear. I really think, Mark, that these things, the Thunderbird, the shaft, the bear, and this rock structure all kind of fit together. And then you've got your altar. Then you've got your altar right here. Look at that. You could see that. You can see that from there, because this is high. This pass is up pretty high.
Yeah, you can, up here at this pass, you could look down and see the lakes down in this basin. You can look and see the lakes over
Right,
here.
right. So, they could actually send signals from here to there, back and forth, and communicate.
Oh, sure.
So
That's
you said there was some shafts. You found some not far from the bear. There was a couple shafts, or one shaft.
So there's a waterfall, and by the waterfall, there was a hole in the ground with a primitive ladder sticking out of it that had the little steps.
Chicken ladder.
Chicken ladder.
That's chicken ladder.
Getting this all down.
And there's a boot up there too, a leather boot with leather soles, and it's old and it's almost
Curled.
a ball. It's curled up. Yeah, just a single boot.
So they wonder what happened to their boot.
There, got him.
I got to go out here. Hey, this is bear country.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. I see more bears when I'm out riding my horse in this country than I do in the drainage of Rock Creek.
When I was a kid, we started seeing bears that had the yellow triangles on their head. And then about 5 years later, they released, that Yellowstone had this new policy where they were taking some of their troubled bears and releasing them in the high Uintas.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, you guys have been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah. So
So
they.
it's painted yellow.
Yeah, they had a painted triangle on their head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they were the troubled bears. Wow.
Yeah, so these adolescent black bears, they'll do that, and the Indians will do it a lot of times too, and they'll take and drop them up in Indian Canyon, and then they'll go to the camps and cause havoc with the campers and pulling people out. I've heard them actually reaching through the windows and grabbing people, because these are real troubled bears.
Oh yeah, they had one happen like that in Pleasant Grove, man, where you ripped the back of the tent open, man, grabbed the kid out, took him out, and ate him, killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just real quick, my little bear story.
Okay.
Okay, so we used to cut post and rails and sell them on the open market when we were in between jobs and having a hard time and struggling with money. You could always go up and cut post and rails, bring them down and sell them to one of the mills. And then of course customers come in and buy it from them. So we're up there cutting timber, and I told my buddy, I says, turn your chainsaw off a second, I hear something. So we turned the chainsaw off, and I could hear a baby. I was like, wah, wah, back in the forest. I could hear this baby cry. It sounded like a little infant crying back there. And I said, man, somebody leave their kid up here or something? And I'd never heard a cub bear make that noise. But I guess they do, but I've never heard it.
Yeah.
I'm walking back there, and here's this little cub bear about that tall. I mean, just young.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's whining like a little baby. And my buddy says he wants that bear. And I said, no. I said, let's just leave. Let's just get out of here. Mama, he's calling for Mama. You know, we better get out of here. He goes back to the truck and grabs his lariat.
Oh, no.
And he ropes this little cub bear. Sucks it up, and I guess he's going to dally it or something. I don't know how he's going to plan on getting a hold of this bear. But he goes down the rope to where this bear is, and this bear jumps up like a spider. And I ain't kidding you, jumps up and lands right in his chest. The little cub bear's got both hind feet inside my buddy's thighs. And got his hands, his upper paws, wrapped around his lats. And is hanging onto him and is walking up his thighs and trying to bite him in the face. So he's got him by the snout with both hands, with this little cub bear is whipping him bad. And so he's trying to push this bear off of him, you know, and I can see the blood's coming. And I'm now not laughing anymore. I was hysterically laughing. I couldn't. So I see the blood coming, so it's getting serious. So now I'm getting a little more worried about my buddy. And he says, grab this bear, get it off me. And I said, dude, I ain't getting close to you. I ain't having that thing jump on me. So I grabbed that rope, that lariat, and I'm trying to pull this. Every time I pull the bear, he's coming too. So I'm not really doing much good. Every time I pull the bear, it's pulling him with him. And finally the bear jumps off of him. Just jumps off of him. And my buddy's standing there like this. Oh, he just can't move. He just can't believe what just happened to him. And so I had to help him back to the truck, and needless to say, that was the end of our day. We had to get him back, and now he shows the scars off. And now you should hear the bear story he tells. and so I'll come across a guy once in a while where he's told this bear story where this bear tried to maul him and kill him, and it was this full bear, and he killed the bear and all this stuff, like a Jeremiah Johnson story or something, right? And I have to tell him, well, okay, that's his story.
You were there?
I was there. I watched it happen. This little bear jumped from the ground up about 5 feet right in his chest, just like poof. It was just right there. So yeah, if that little bear like that can cause that much damage on you, can you imagine what Mom would do?
Yeah.
You're done. But so this bear that you're seeing is tall.
Oh.
I mean, so when a bear stands up, it's 7 foot tall. It's taller than a man. These black bears that are 4 or 5 years old, they're about that tall,
yeah,
like what you're describing. For being tall, like I'm really interested, and I want to get you up there on a horse. But you have to tell that you're going to have some time. You're going to have a couple, 2-3 days and clear it through the boss. And I'd like to put together an expedition and go up and take Terry and have him film it, have him document this.
This bear, if that's carved like that, man, that's important. That's something way important, and that's, yeah.
So you should see on this map where he said it is. About a mile and a half from this rock structure to where...
Really?
Yeah.
So who knows what else could be there?
Right. So I think if we got, I don't know, if we took 4 or 5 riders and 2 or 3 pack animals, which we have right now, we can go put the pack saddles on them, trailer them up there right now and get them up there. They're in good shape. They got shoes on them. They're ready to, those horses and mules are ready to go. They're in good shape. Well, we just need to figure out a time when all of us can get together this next month, middle August to the end of August or something.
Before it's coming to an end real quick.
Man. Yeah, before
this summer is flying by. So can you tell? I mean, this pilot guy, he gave you a location. You went up there. Can you tell what? Don't tell where it's at, but can you tell what you found? Can you tell us that on camera? Or not? Not saying where. Don't say where it's at.
Yeah. So
don't. If you can't, don't.
So one. Yeah, I probably better not.
Okay.
Because, I really probably shouldn't do it. But one of these times we'll take a picture and then just make it anonymous or something in one of your videos or something. I could do that.
Okay.
Take some of the stuff out.
Okay.
But as far as this goes, this is real interesting to me because it's ancient.
This is ancient.
This is ancient.
This wasn't done. Yeah, this sounds something more elaborate than what the Spaniards would do.
Right. So the story is that the Spanish mined some of the gold, but it was, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this is the way I understand it to be. It's Anunnaki gold. Anunnaki is this ancient race of, I don't know, fallen angels or something that is not like us. These Anunnaki, they were the demigods of the tribes, like Towats, the sun god, the wind gods. Things of these were the Anunnaki. And it was their gold to turn into autonomous gold to rebuild atmosphere, the white powder. So the scientists actually did. They took and made that autonomous gold, and at 700 degrees it disappeared. And they tried to stir it up a stick, and then when they dropped temperature, it was back. It came back to where it was at. Now, how true that is, I don't know enough about the Anunnaki to really start talking about aliens and demons and all that kind of stuff. So, but this is ancient, and it was done by somebody built it, somebody carved that bear and did the intricacy on it. And why would you do that there? I mean, it's usually, carvings are like, well, some of the modern carvings we have today in the Dakotas, in places, where they carved them faces in the rocks and blasted it. They didn't have dynamite or nothing like that. They had to do that by hand with a chisel or something. And then you had to have a chisel with you. You had to bring a chisel, or you had to make a chisel out of smelting rock down and building it or something to carve that, right? Who would you think would carve something like that? Indians? Or would it be...
I don't know.
Spanish or Aztec or...
Indian? Yeah, but it's the...
When you see...
Because the Utes speak the same dialect as the Aztecs. They call it Utah Aztecan. So there's definite... And they found things from both. There was some trade in that going ancient times, long before the Spaniards came, from this area clear down to
so when you
Mexico.
When you first seen this bear, what popped into your mind of who carved it? What did you think when you first seen it? Or are you just trying to get out of Dodge because of the thunderstorms, the rain?
We were trying to get out because of the rain, but I mean, I was really surprised. Even after I figured out that it was carved or that it wasn't real, when we went up, I thought maybe wood, but it wasn't. It was out of stone. And I was surprised that it was out of stone.
Do you think you could get us close?
I hope so.
I mean, to where we could all get out and we could kind of meander around up in there and look for it. If we got close to it, we could.
Get close. I might get a guy out here with some with the LiDAR and thermal imaging and all that.
Right.
If this bear is real, man, I can get us hooked up with all kinds of fun things.
So but the thing is to get boots on up here.
Yeah.
Yep.
What we've got to do is get boots on up here. Either take the horses, hike up there, or whatever it takes.
So them eyes looked like they were inset. Like at one time there could have been some kind of rubies or emeralds or garnets or something in them. Maybe possibly.
I can't remember anything glittering. I can't remember anything.
I wonder if there could have been.
It was all dug them out. Dark stone.
And it was raining,
It was raining buckets. It was just
so it was a little bit darker too during the day when the clouds come in like that. So it takes a lot of light away.
Yeah, we were close to dusk.
Well, he's already close to dusk. So yeah, Mark, I don't know how you feel right now, but
that's interesting.
Man, I tell you what, this is absolutely. I've gotten close and had my heart pumping before getting close to things. And I've seen stuff back up in here that's really got me excited. The shaft, the smelter, the ore I pulled away from the smelter, and we got color out of, so.
There's some aristas down there too.
So I don't know where the arista is here, but right here, I went to there. Okay, I brought back 15 pounds of dirt and got 1.5 ounces of gold out of it right here, out of this right here. Now they were mining. There's a trail that goes from here. Now this is around a kind of what it looks like it might have been ponds and lakes at one time that are dried up, and it looks like they've been working around in there. And up this creek, you could see where big mounds, great big mounds, just where they shouldn't be, like no drainage or nothing, where water kind of built them up from hydraulics. And then back here, this was collapsed. But every place I've been on these maps, there's been what he said is there. How he knows that?
Where's the arrestas you've seen, Mark?
Down here around, we ran into one here when we were kids. I didn't know what it was at the time. There was a circle in the stone that was rutted, and there was a round rock with a hole in the center that was sitting off the side, and there was part of in the center of around the circle, like if it was a donut, in the center of it there was still a little bit of rotten log in the center.
When I showed Greg this, he said that right here there was an old cabin setting right here. Did you ever see an old cabin setting right there when you come down that slide to Kid Lake?
No, but that's pretty close to where you've got a good freshwater spring comes out there.
Mm-hmm.
And off the side there's, you know how they used to cook and they have two rocks that were parallel, and then there was a ledge like they had to use to set something on top of it, and they put the fire down inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's right there by that spring, and that would be about the same area you're talking.
Yeah, so there was an old cabin. I've not seen the old cabin, but I've been to this spot, and it's just a dirt spot about the size of this carpet, and nothing grows there. There's not a bush, and there's bushes and grass and everything, and flowers and everything growing all around, but not there. But not in that dirt. There's nothing there. And I didn't have a metal detector, I didn't have a shovel, I didn't have dowsing rods, I had nothing with me at all to detect that. And when you get back in this country, back in here, and you don't have what you need, you're just not going to have it. Because unless you rode clear out of there and went clear back. But this is not that far, Mark. This is not that far. We ought to be able to get us a trail in one day. Me and Colton could go up there with our chainsaw and cut that fallen timber out of that trail and get to one of these meadows right in here. Get to one of these meadows where we're close to your little lake here. That would put us close to the bear. That maybe on the way up we could maybe say, well, hey, that firebird's right in here somewhere or something, or because I have
the Thunderbird's in a different canyon, isn't it?
The Thunderbird's the canyon before it.
Okay.
On the same side.
On the same side.
On the same side, it's canyon before it, and it's not on the. I remember going to work at Geneva, and Dave Selm, what's his name? Dave. And some of the guys were looking at one of the roads things, and they had the book open, and I said, "Oh, I know where that's at. That's right here." And they said, "No, it's not." Like, well, it looks just like, and they got kind of excited about it, but I didn't know the Thunderbird, I didn't know.
What's the significance, Terry? You know a little bit more about that than we do.
It's supposed to indicate possible treasure or something, or...
Well, that's what they say. They got one carved out somewhere. Or it looks kind of natural to me, but they say it's a carved out Thunderbird, and it looks over a treasure, or has something to do with treasure.
Same with the bear, right?
I wonder if it's more of an Aztec thing, but the one that they say, it looks more natural to me. You know the one I'm talking about, the one in
this one looks natural, but then it's had some
cutting to it.
Yeah.
So how big was the Thunderbird? Was it quite visible?
Bigger than my house.
Bigger than your house? Carved?
In the side of the cliff, yeah.
Well, that'd be hard to miss.
It's...
That's not like you wouldn't find that.
Nobody would. Everybody would look at that and say, "There's no way to get down there." And that drainage, they wouldn't.
Yeah, and that's
And if it's a stream that doesn't go to a lake, then nobody's going to be going fishing.
that's right.
So and just to
That's right.
and just to let people know, Mark, you found these things. You didn't know anything about the Spanish.
No,
You're just
I didn't
fishing.
know about it.
You're just hiking the mountains to get to the upper lakes.
Since I've grown up, found a lot of things out when I worked at Geneva, and I've talked to you about Gillespie and some of the other people that were really interesting to talk to, and so then I started getting some of the books and reading up some of the things, and
You found all this stuff before you even knew about any of that.
Exactly.
See, and that was the thing with me too.
Found some what was left of some smelters and some different things up there in the Uintas, but we didn't know what they were at the time.
Yeah. So me and my brother are cutting trails and doing trail work, and he worked for the Forest Service for a long time. And when we were back in the hills doing things, we didn't either. Oh yeah, hey, that's kind of weird, but keep going on because we're blowing elk calls and we're hunting bulls, with our bow.
They use this to sharpen knives, the wheel sitting there on the ground with the. Yeah,
that's all the same way it was when I was younger too. I was too busy hunting elk to care what that is, and finding stuff like that. But now, and it's a little different now that I've learned about some of this stuff. It's kind of getting in my blood, and it just becomes more interesting to me. And then when I meet guys like you, Mark, that has information about
Spaniards got this far up when I was a kid.
Right. Well, we heard Columbus, right? In the New World. That's what we learned in school.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you're going out and you're looking for this stuff, you find other things too. Writings, carvings, cairns. I have found.
If there's something, the columns are carved, according to your buddy, the bear Mark's talking about, there might be other things carved.
Yeah,
I found some petroglyphs and stuff too up there, but
really,
I wouldn't be able to. Like I said, we just stumbled across them.
You know how long I've known about this bear Mark's? Man, how long ago did you tell me that?
When we were working at Geneva.
Yeah, that's how long that's been.
Before 2000, so
20 years.
Probably 1996.
I ain't getting any younger. let's get this. Let's get this in August. Let's go.
And I think so too. I think that it's time that.
Yeah.
And especially with the information Mark knows and information I know, your expertise on things. You've got a lot of knowledge on writings and drawings and different things. You've got a pretty good.
My expertise and knowledge is knowing you guys.
Terry, I got to tell you, it's a pleasure knowing you too.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you're a treasure. You're a treasure trove of information more than we are. We only have our stories. You've got millions.
I used to love to go talk to you when go find you when I had a little bit of free time at Geneva. And
I think we ought to interview Terry. Here's some of his stories. Well, when I get back to the house, I'll get a clearer view of this, and I'll start studying a little bit more, and I'll have me and Colton can go up, and we can start clearing trail to get up in there. If you guys are interested in taking the horses and packing back in there and doing an expedition.
Yeah, I am. I don't know about Mark, but I am. If Mark's game, that'd be even better because he could guide us to that bear easier.
Yeah, and I think that if we had the trail clear, we could get there faster. We're all kind of busy working and we got life and things going on. If we can get up there, if me and Colton can get up there and we'll clear the trail going up the drainage so that we can get through there. And we'll see if we can't find a good campsite kind of centrally located in here, Mark, somewhere in here. I think we can go up there, me and Colton will go up there, we'll cut that trail. He's been wanting to go up there and get riding, and him and his dad. Dad's the one that flew us in the plane a month or so ago. But we can get up in there and get some place where we can find a place to camp, and we might be able to even get some gear up there before we all go. Now, really, basically, all we really need is shelter, a sleeping bag, and your clothes and some food and stuff. And then we'll just throw that right in the panniers and shoot on up there, and we can just everybody can just meet up at Moon Lake. after we get this trail cleared. Now, I think that me and Colton ought to be able to go up. This weekend, we're going to a shaft that actually has logs stuffed down in it. And we're going to try to pull them logs out this weekend. I don't know why they stuff logs down in there, but they're 14 inches on the butt. And the hole's not down, it goes at an angle. So somehow they got them logs up 20 foot long and shoved them down in that hole. And there's an old cabin underneath the ledge. It's pretty well preserved. It's out of the weather, and it's right there by this shaft. So we're gonna go up and look at it. But I'm gonna get him, get them horses up here and get chainsaw. And we can, if the timber's not real bad, like when I cut timber to go to my elk camp, every year there's about 30 trees a year falls over a 5 mile long trail. Do we have to clear to get up to elk camp every year? So I don't know how the Forest Service might even have been in there since now and cleared, because they were supposed to go up and start clearing these trails since that fire went through there.